Hey guys, today I was going to expand on the combat that we talked about last time, and we're going to add two new things. One is feinting and one is kicking. And so right now I'm fighting the first NPC in the initiation trial, and I'm just going to show how I'm going to block, feint into a kick, and then do a swing. So I block, I start charging a swing, then I kick, and then I actually swing. And there's going to be a few key things to executing this. So first is that we need our kick to actually land, which can take a little bit of practice to get the hang of. I don't want to just be kicking off to the side. Second, some people end up kicking too early. I can't kick my opponent until they're blocking. So I need to actually threaten a hit, see him block, and then kick him. And then when we're riposting, we don't need to combo off our kick, but I do want to start working on the mechanics to combo off the kick. So we're going to talk about that as well. So if I wasn't riposting, I'd charge up an attack, and then I want to make sure that I see that little plus in the center of my cursor, so that I know that I successfully executed a combo. So wait till he blocks, kick him, I have the plus, I comboed, and kill him. So that's what we're going to work on today. This NPC is has a unique AI that's not the same one the other aspiring swordsman in the game use, that is designed to help you learn to kick him. But for our purposes, we'll actually be using the attack trainer in your home. Sorry. So a few things I want to talk about. One is actually how the kick works to make sure we kind of understand the mechanics. So when you kick, you stick out your foot, and there is a trace done from the ball of your foot. And the ball of your foot needs to touch the body of your opponent while they're blocking. And when that happens, you'll see the little plus appear. And if your opponent's not blocking, it gives them a little nudge. The little plus means we can combo. So if I'm charging the attack, I don't actually need to feint at all. Kick will feint for me. So I can charge an attack and then just hit E. I'm not hitting feint. And that cancels the attack and switches to a tick. So if I want to actually hit my opponent, I need to charge an attack until they block, then kick them, then swing. And one important thing to keep in mind when you're fighting other players, if they're new in particular, is like some new players just spam attacks and don't block at all, so they're just doing this. You don't need to kick anyone who's not blocking. And if someone's just spamming attacks at you, the basic block and riposte that we talked about last time is all you need to do. So this is only feinting and kicking are only things you need to do if your opponent's actually blocking. But to really build up the mechanics, we hold an attack till they block, then we kick, and then we swing. And we want to tap our new attack after the kick lands while the little plus is visible from the kick. Oops. And then obviously don't handle hit your swing. I was too close there. They're staggered for a little bit, so that as we're talking about, you have time to reposition your body to make sure that you're really happy. And then you can see in the combat log here, after the kick, with base stats, which I have some stat boosts. With base stats, the maximum damage is going to be 70 off a kick. I should be aiming for a little more, so that was probably about my max at 74. Off a kick, you really want to be getting a big hit for, at least 60 damage. That time I missed my combo. You can see there's no plus in my cursor. But yeah, so this is something you can really master with the attack trainer when your opponent's not moving. Where people start to have trouble is when their opponent is moving. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the mouse mechanics for landing a kick versus a moving opponent. So let's go into the arena and take a look at that. So the key idea here is going to be that just like we can retarget our swings as we move, we're not locked in, we can adjust our body, adjust our aim, and make sure that our swings land. We can do exactly the same thing with a kick. So even if I start kicking, towards this post, I can rotate my body as I kick, and my foot will actually trace an arc that, will hit a wider area. And so if my opponent's moving and I just stand there and kick in just a singular direction, if he moves at all, there's a really high chance that I'm going to miss. What I want to be doing is start my kick early but then try and retarget just like you might in an FPS when you're, trying to headshot someone. I want to retarget my kick so that my cursor ends up kind of in the center of their body. Because I don't need to headshot the kick. I really want to chest shot the kick. And if you hear that tapping noise, so that time I succeeded. So if you see him stunned, I succeeded. If you hear a tap, that means I kicked him and he just wasn't blocking. What you don't want to be doing is kicking and missing completely. If you kick him and he wasn't blocking, it's possible he released his block. It's possible that you didn't actually, so like there, I didn't actually feint at all. I didn't start swinging, so he didn't bother to block. So these guys are pretty decent at moving, and he's somewhat hard to kick. So they're good practice for this kind of training. And so if we take the exact same combat style that I was doing before, where all we do is block and riposte, fight like that. Oop. We have to actually block for it to work. And then we just add in a kick. We can suddenly start to really chunk him down. So just, maybe every couple block or riposte attempts, try to work in a kick, get a stun, and try and land a big headshot for, at least 60 damage. And that is that. So aside from kicking, the other thing I wanted to talk about in this video was feinting. And so again, I'm going to start with our just block riposte combat style here. Block, riposte, block, riposte. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start an attack and then feint into a different one. So for these, I'll start all my attacks up and then switch to a stab. Start up, switch to stab. Start up, switch to stab. And that's going to make blocking for our opponent a lot harder because he has to, switch his block as we move our sword. And once you're more comfortable, you can actually start mixing up your attacks a little bit more randomly, not just block to stab. And the key things when you're doing the feint is, one, deciding how you actually want to do it. You can use your feint key, which is Q by default. So while I'm charging a swing, I tap Q and it just stops. The other thing you can do is you can actually release your swing and start in a new attack immediately with your mouse. And that will do what people sometimes call a soft feint, where it auto feints for you. Some people really like to use the soft feint for everything. I think it's probably a little better to learn to use the feint key, but it's really more of a stylistic preference. It's kind of up to you. And you can see that when I just block and riposte without any feints, these guys don't have too much trouble with it, and kind of, semi-competent players won't either. Oops. But as soon as I add even one feint, it gets really hard to block. And if I am kind of sometimes feinting, sometimes kicking, then my opponent has to think, do I drop my block so I don't get kicked? Do I correct my block because he's going to feint? Suddenly you're going to start inducing all sorts of errors in your opponent. The other thing to think about when you're feinting that's a little bit more high level is some feints are going to be a little harder for your opponent to read than others. If I actually do overhead into stab, those animations look totally different. It's easier for my opponent to digest. If I try and do something a little bit more disguised, I have kind of two basic categories of options for making my feints hard to read. One is that I start rotating my body through before I feint, so it actually looks like I'm releasing a swing, and then I switch. So I'm going to feint this downright attack that would look like that. I'm going to turn my body to mimic the motion of a swing, and then feint it and do a different one. The other one is to kind of use your body motion to make your swing look different. So an example might be if my opponent is straight ahead at this post, I'd start charging an upwards attack and release it and rotate at them. And that will bring my sword in a similar path to an upright swing, which also is hard to block. So that would be I call that one retargeting. There's probably a different name for it, but that would be a retarget where I try and move my sword onto my opponent. And then that would be a more animation blend where I make it look like I'm doing a downright, and I use my body rotation to switch. And you can do that, with any attack. With the retarget, you want to make sure that you're not swinging and missing like that. It's very easy because you're taking your eyes off your opponent. If they're moving, it's very easy to swing and miss. And especially retargeting into overheads is risky because of that, because the overhead, it's in a straight line, so your cursor really needs to be on your opponent. But whichever one you like is up to you. And as you get a little more proficient, you'll kind of start to find like certain patterns of feints that work really well against players. The NPCs aren't actually tracking the motion of your sword quite the way a human would. So for figuring out effective feints, it's really better to work with a friend than to train it right on the NPCs. The NPCs are mostly good for mechanics. So that is kicking and feinting in a nutshell. I'm going to wrap that up here, and next time we're going to talk about dodge and ki. Thanks for watching.